LTD 1969 with a longer wheelbase, a wider tread, and more car than anything in its class, with a spacious and comfortable Ford front room.
There is and has been some debate over the years as to what exactly the initials LTD actually stood for. The LTD designation is considered by some an abbreviation of luxury trim decor, and by others as a limited body style classification for the Galaxy. This is the history of the Ford LTD second generation, 1969 through 1978. For 1969, the LTD was completely new from the previous years, with all new sheet metal and a completely redesigned interior. The LTD seemed to take after Chrysler's famed fuselage style that they introduced this year on their full-size line, which to some made the LTD look less sleek and a bit larger and heavier than before, which it was. The headlights were still hidden, and a body-colored center divider split the grille horizontally. Taillights, either intentionally or unintentionally, resemble the 1966 model, with an additional red reflective taillight panel that ran across the rear of the car below the taillights above the bumper. Inside, the new dashboard wrapped around the driver, which put many more controls closer to the touch. But many critics ridiculed the radio position, which was now to the upper left, defying convention. Also, the headlight knob was located under the dashboard, which defeated the purpose of convenience. There was still a 4-door hardtop and 5-door wagon, but the 2-door hardtop was now available in 2 different styles. The 302 remained the base power plant, with the 351 and 390 as options, but the 427 and 428s were no longer available, being replaced by the 429 V8 2-barrel version.
If you appreciate a great luxury car, take a quiet break in a 1970 Ford. Ford gives you better ideas.
The 1970 LTD had the same body as the 1969, but with a different front clip that eliminated the body-colored horizontal divider, but retained the hidden headlights. The tail treatment was also revised. The red reflective tail panel was eliminated, and the tail lights went from square to rectangular, and they also got rid of the reverse lights in the center. They were now on the rear bumper. Inside, the door handles eliminated the squeeze type in favor of a more conventional pull type. Ignition switches were moved from the dashboard to the steering column this year. Like the rest of the Ford line, the front side marker lights were changed from white to amber, and the engine displacement callouts were eliminated. All body styles and drivetrain choices carried over from 1969. Brougham models were now the top trim, which included full wheel covers, more ornate trim inside and out, among other luxurious touches. Drivetrain choices were the same as 1969.
The 1971 LTD is one of the quietest riding Fords ever.
The 1971 LTDs were all new again this year, slightly longer than before, but with perhaps a bit of a less bloated look. The new styling featured a raised grille center and heavily sculptured side panels. Headlights were no longer hidden. In the rear, however, the LTDs had a red reflective tail light panel that the Galaxy and Custom didn't have, giving the impression of a center tail light. It also had LTD initials in the middle. Dashboards were all new and flatter than before, eliminating the wraparound style, and radios were put back to the right of the driver.
This is a recording session. The studio, the quiet interior of the 72 Ford LTD.
1972s didn't change much other than the new larger egg crate grille, and the taillights were enlarged with a smaller, narrower reflective strip between the taillights and no longer contained LTD initials. Body styles were still the 2- and 4-door hardtop, 5-door wagon which could still have the Country Squire trim with the wood paneling, and 2-door convertible. Drivetrain choices mirrored 1971 models. Although this body style proved staggeringly popular for Ford, an all-new redesigned LTD would nonetheless debut for 1973.
Jaguar XJ6 sedan, a truly well-made luxury car for around $9,000.
The new 1973 Ford LTD Brougham, a truly quiet luxury car priced thousands less. Quiet is the sound of a well-made car.
The 1973 LTD models were completely redesigned from the 1971-72 generation. Dimensions didn't change much. but the body was all new. Convertibles and four-door hardtops were gone, but the two-door hardtop, four-door pillared sedan, and five-door wagon were still available. The base engine was now the smaller 5.8 351 two-barrel V8, with the 400 and 429 as options. The 400 was standard on the wagon. Bromes remained the top trim levels. Interiors and dashboard designs were all new, but the layout was similar to the previous. To continue LTD tradition, a sectioned red reflective taillight strip ran between the taillights, and the LTD initials returned in the middle. The LTDs now shared the same sedan rear roofline with its lesser Galaxy and Custom brothers. A 3-speed automatic transmission was the sole transmission choice.
Hello, I'm Hugh Downs, and I'm here to pass along a very strong opinion of the 1974 Ford LTD. The Ford Motor Company thinks that the workmanship in this car can stand up to the closest kind of inspection.
The 1974 LTDs had a different grille with horizontal bars, but that was about the only real styling change. The 429 was no longer available this year, replaced by a larger 7.5 460 four-barrel V8. All else continued as before.
Ford introduces two new luxurious standard-size cars. The 1975 Ford LTD Landau.
The 1975 Ford LTD.
1975 had a restyle with a different nose and tail. Now that the Galaxy and Custom models were gone, the Custom models, however, continued as strictly a fleet model. The LTD was now Ford's sole full-size offering. As a result, the LTD lost some previous standard features in order to keep the prices down and still remain competitive to the Chevrolet Impala. In the front, the grille was made smaller and no longer surrounded the headlights. And in the rear, the taillights were now vertical and wrapped around the sides of the quarter panel, doubling as the rear side marker lights. The two-door was no longer available as a hardtop, as that body style was unfortunately being phased out of the automotive industry for various reasons. In its place was a new pillared coupe that had a slim vertical window followed by a larger quarter window, which greatly improved rear visibility. Base and Brougham models continued, but the top-of-the-line model was now the Landau, which included, among other things, hidden headlights, the first time since 1970, cornering lights, fancier interior trim, and optional rear quarter fender skirts. The Landau was available on both the coupe and sedan. The wagon was still available as a base or country squire, which still had the wood grain and could have the Landau's hidden headlamps if desired.
Introducing the 1976 Ford LTD. Front view, back view, side view, and bottom view. Something you should think about before you buy a car.
The 1976 LTD models differed very little from the 1975 restyle, other than the catalytic converter becoming standard on some models depending on where it was sold. Base engine was still the 351, with the 400 and 460 optional, with the 400 still standard on the wagon models.
October 1st, Ford will introduce a special choice. For 1977, some car makers will offer only shorter, lighter full-size cars, but Ford gives you a choice.
There weren't many changes in 1977 either, other than the 351 becoming available on the base model wagons. All models now had a catalytic converter, and the speedometers now read 85 miles per hour, down from 120.
For the millions of people who need a full-size car, introducing the 1978 Ford LTD.
The 1978 LTDs stood pretty much the same for their final year in this present form. Now that GM redesigned their full-size Chevrolet Caprice and Impala the year prior, and Chrysler dropped their full-size Dodge Royal Monaco and Plymouth Grand Fury models altogether this year. The LTD and its companion, the Mercury Grand Marquis, were the lone wolves of the old-school full-size cars left. Unless you include the much less popular Chrysler Newport New Yorker, the LTD would become an all-new, smaller redesigned model for 1979. Well, there you have it, the history of the Ford LTD second generation from 1969 through 1978. What was your favorite year? Do you have one? Let us know. Leave a comment below. If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that bell for future Boca Brother videos. Again, thanks for watching the Boca Brothers Car Reviews.